She and I knew each other as long ago as 1971, and we dated a little bit back in the 70s, but it didn't click. And I went off and married somebody else and ended in divorce. It wasn't a good decision. And I hadn't seen Kathleen for over 7 years, and then fate or God or whatever, coincidence, whatever you might call it, brought us together in November of 1984. We've been together ever since.
Jim and I met in 1992. Actually, it was a nice little story, right? Because a friend of mine, not even a very good friend, had asked me to go to a little Saturday afternoon party at this guy's house. She hardly even knew him. And I decided to go ahead and go. Where Jim, on the other hand...
Yeah, well, as a friend of mine called me up and says, oh, we're having a party at my mother's, because his mother had a nice house with a swimming pool.
And this is somebody he grew up with.
Somebody I grew up with, went to high school with. We were good buddies. And he said his brother was having this party, and I guess what happened, his brother had met this friend of Molly's, so she was going, and then she invited Molly. And anyway, I decided I'd go to the party, and I went down there, and I was sitting there in the backyard, and here came this beautiful dish.
I was a lot younger then.
Beautiful dish walking through the door, and so my buddy walked right up to her and says, I have somebody I want you to meet. And he walked Molly over to me, and we started chatting, and anyway, we hit it off, but Molly had to go for some reason. She had a date that night.
I had a date that evening.
So anyway, after Molly left, I went, darn, you know, I'm single, she's single, maybe I should have asked her out or something, but I was too shy. So anyway, my brain fired, and I went over to her friend who was still there and gave her friend my telephone number and said, why don't you have Molly call me? And well, basically a week went by and I didn't get any call, and then about 10 o'clock one night it was Molly calling back because her friend had forgotten to give her the number. So
yeah, so she finally, I had called her about something different. She said, oh, you know that guy you met, you know, he gave me your phone number for you to call him, and so I did.
So anyway, I said, well, we need to go out sometime, and left it at that. And I called my brother right up, and I said, you know that lady that was at the party, I talked to her, and we're going to go out sometime. And he said, well, why don't you ask her out for this weekend? And I said, well, geez. So I called her back and asked her out, and we went out. And
we went to Golden Gate Park in San Francisco and walked around during the day, and it was nice.
Yeah, it was a good day. It was one of my favorite artists at an exhibit. His name is Robert Bateman. He was a wildlife artist, and I was kind of into the wildlife thing then. But anyway, we had a great time, and
yeah, too bad we don't have Jim has painted wildlife. We should have brought a painting, right?
So we dated for a year. We lived about an hour and a half away from each other, and then we ended up moving in together and spent 2 years.
In this really nice college town.
College town, and then we got married in the backyard of this house we were renting.
Yes, we did.
A good friend of mine, Bruce Wool, married us, and then we ended up buying.
Both my sisters were at the wedding. Yes, right. Actually, and both their husbands, Paul and Amy Ruby, and Jim and Kathy Logan were there.
So I got to meet her side of the family, liked them all, had a good time, partied hardy. Molly and I ended up buying a house, and then in 2000, wasn't it 2000, we moved to Pennsylvania.
We came out here for Molly McGinley's wedding in 2000. I think all the family was there, Amy and Paul and their kids and everybody, and we liked Pennsylvania so much that we decided to move out here.
Yep, so we did it, and we've been here ever since.
Paul and I worked in the same restaurant. That's how we met. I was a bartender, which was not something that I'm particularly proud of now I look back on. I don't think that's really a very good way to make a living, but anyway, that's another story. And also a waitress, and he cooked in that restaurant. That's how we met.
We actually met through mutual friends at a live music place that we went to. We met in 1994, but we really didn't see each other again for like a couple of years. And so we really met in 97, and that's when we started dating. And the first time we met and the second time when we actually started dating was in the same place. The Empty Glass.
No, I didn't think that's right.
You know?
No, not the second time.
What was the second time?
That Mulligan's.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I would disagree, but I'm not, you know.
Okay, that's all right.
Rick and I got married in June 10th, 2002. I'm sorry, June 10th, 2000. So we've been married for 9 years.
We were both in the military and stationed in a remote island in the Indian Ocean. And I had my eye on Chris for quite some time. And then just got up the nerve one day to approach him. And pretty much instant connection, but I helped him with a few of his compositions for the college class that he was taking. He was thoroughly impressed with my knowledge.
Yeah, I was impressed with her knowledge and her confidence, and I wanted to be just like her as a result of that. That's why I decided that I wanted to go back to college and be a teacher and all that.
We met in college.
Yeah.
And
13 or 14 years ago, so it's been a while.
I was in college in Greensburg, and I worked at a restaurant, and Amber was hired there after I had already been working there, and part of her training was to come see me, and I showed her a few things, including making a salad, and as soon as that happened, she wanted to marry me. And so we got to know each other a little better, and I decided that that would be a good idea, and then we got married.
7 months later, we got married after a meeting.
7 months later, yeah. We had gotten engaged, and we were planning to get married in November, but our engagement was cut short when we decided to elope one night after going out to the movies. And so we after the movie, we did a little research and discovered that we could get married the same day in Winchester, Virginia. So we drove down overnight, slept in the car, and woke up in dirty clothes, no toothbrush or anything, and we went to the Justice of the Peace and got married. And almost 9 years later, still hanging in there.
We met, funny enough, at church camp. That was a long time ago. And then a couple years ago, Stephanie was studying abroad in Poland, and I flew over there with a ring around my neck and hit it until the right moment.
We were in Amsterdam?
Yeah, we traveled around a little bit. When we were in Amsterdam, we had a little apartment. Instead of doing a hotel room, we rented an apartment, so it was nice. Like, we were living there for 3 days. And as soon as we got there, basically, I popped the question.
We had our little vacation in Amsterdam, visited some art museums.
Yeah. And then took her back to Poland, and I flew back. Funny story about going over there. Got to Munich, and I met another American while I was eating lunch, and we had a few beers, and I had a few hours left for my plane, so I went and took a nap and woke up about 2 hours after my plane took off. So I was stuck in Munich, speaking only English, which wasn't a huge deal, but everybody was speaking German, and I didn't have a phone or anything. The phone wouldn't work over there, so somehow I got to Poznan, Poland, where she was, and I walked off the plane and she was there.
Yeah.
Luckily, otherwise
Like
we
12 hours late.
might not be engaged right now.